8 years ago, I have built an Android application as my bachelor thesis. It helped me translate words from my favorite newspaper and get the interpretation, which usually is helpful because there are lots of new words for me, even though I'm reading it still. Now, recently, I decided to rebuild this application, but this time slightly changing my strategy by focusing on the Uzbek language. And this video is about my journey, how I built it within 7 days, and now you can see how does it look. So it's pretty simple. First there is an onboarding, and as you see here, I tell the user what he can do, what he can achieve, and then there are a few pages that he needs to go through before he can start the recognition of the text. So once user is familiar with what is what, he can start. As you see here, he needs to allow the application to use video, and then you point to a certain text, you hit recognize, then magic happens, and user is walked through what is recognized and which words were found. Like here, you can see, then there are parsed words. Afterwards, you can see that some words were checked against the dictionary, and then you can see their interpretation. Yeah, you can search, of course, by typing something. Yeah, and then you can see the details, and then you can go back to the actual recognition. So the application, as you see, is pretty simple. Now I would like to tell you about my journey. How did I do this? How within 7 days I managed to write this simple application? First of all, briefly about myself. So I have been working as a software engineer for about 7 years, and my regular job, as most probably most of you, was consisted of doing the design for certain solutions, then implementing it. And although for last year I had a chance to do a little bit more of product management, I still felt that there is so little time for my personal projects, and I always felt like I need to produce some content. I need to write more about my thoughts and to do the small things that I always valued. And some books like this by Dory Clark, who is a consultant and writes frequently in Harvard Business Review, they were suggesting that it's important to build presence. It's important to write so that other people would build a community around you. So with all these thoughts, I always postponed, and it had a burden. It had a heavy burden on me. Then, about 3 months ago, I decided to quit my job, and I wanted to look back and find something among my past achievements that would bring me a little bit of energy. And for years I wanted to build this Uzbek dictionary. Somehow it was always on my bucket list, and I wanted just to build one day an Uzbek dictionary. My Uzbek is pretty poor, although I understand some words and phrases. And I thought, okay, I did it for English. I implemented an English interpreter, and now I can do it for Uzbek. And my friend Mikhail, he rebuilt his final year project a few years after our graduation, and I always felt a bit uneasy about this fact, because I also wanted to invest some time and rebuild my final year project. And then there was this moment when I thought, okay, now I need to do it now. And although it sounded pretty straightforward, just do the application, I knew that it's always not so easy to learn new technology, and trying something new is hard and painful. So it was also Kotlin language. Somehow during my career, I saw that people like to have different camps. Like one who prefers C#, others who prefer Java, and yeah, somehow gravitation pulled me to those C# guys, and I didn't touch Java for a long time. And Kotlin is basically close to Java because they are compiled, transpiled to the same in the same environment. And also Android development. It felt like I almost don't do. I didn't do any mobile development for a number of years, and this is a new development style, right? You need to see how the user will react. It's mostly it is just developing a client, mostly developing a client for your users. And another thing, of course, was user experience. Doing mostly backend development, or for those who work mostly as backend development, you need to think more how to write an efficient algorithm, and questions like how easy it is for the user do not pop up. Although I worked a little bit with front end a few years ago, still I'm not a professional in user experience. And the final thing that was challenging and was kind of stopping me and from not starting this project, was that I didn't manage to find data for the Uzbek dictionary. So it was always a struggle, because data belongs to someone, and open source simply didn't exist. So all these things, they were putting a bit of a burden and stopping me from moving forward. But then I opened my notes, and I also checked my final year project. I opened this PDF document, and I saw that it's actually a lot of work that have been done. It was a considerable time investment, and I realized that if I manage to do this once, then it should be possible to do it once again. And then I started, basically. I started pretty small, so I did Google tutorials for developers. I did two main tutorials. One was a tutorial with Android Basic for Compose, and another was Kotlin Bootcamp for programmers. Both were pretty challenging, I would say, but quite interesting. And now I wanted to tell you a bit in detail how was the development process, and my thoughts about this. So as I mentioned earlier, I started with those Google training stuff, and within this course, which is called Android Basics with Compose, I did more than at least 10 projects, and one project I published to Google Play Market, and you can download and play around with this. It's called Mindful 30. Basically, it's a pretty simple app from the technological perspective, but it was fun to write with ChatGPT, who helped me to generate lots of content, meaningful content for it, and it helps you to do mindful development life for 30 days. And I mentioned that it is simple because this this application consists basically of of a list of cards, and yeah, they contain it contains simple pieces of advice for every day. That's it. Other things that I did with this within this course or training was that I learned the new UI, how to write UI with Kotlin and this compose package. Then I learned how to store data with Room library, and I also learned how to manage threads, which was which I believe is one of the most complex things that surrounded the development. Then I started with the application. It took me, I think, 1 month to finish, or maybe a bit more, but I didn't want to start being completely blind when it comes to the stack. Otherwise, I would just feel all the pain of starting something new with zero foundation. And then I thought, how can I really do the work focused? And since a while, I'm a big fan of Calvin Newport with his ideas that attention is crucial. It is crucial. He coined the term of deep work, but in general, attention is the most important resource that we possess, and I would even argue we don't have time, we have only attention. And I thought I would use a Pomodoro technique to be laser focused on what is happening, and I would tell my users what is what and how I use that. So on day 1, I spent 7 Pomodoros, and I was working on planning and design. And you will see that I made an initial estimation, and of course I thought quite optimistically, and some features I didn't implement, but this was important to start with. And on the first day, I made camera work with OCR. It was pretty simple. It was just a toast, but it was enough. It was enough to make it work. Then on the second day, I spent 8 Pomodoros, and I learned how to pass text from one activity to another. I also found a small dictionary from a guy from Uzbekistan. I think he's working right now in Amazon, and I also wrote to him to ask what and why, and he said that this project was together with one organization, and they didn't provide all the letters. They provided only one letter, and so this dictionary was not enough. I created some UI, and I made a basic dictionary setup. This was day number 2. And every day I started with doing recalculating what is my estimate, what is left, what should be done next. Then on day 3, I spent 9 Pomodoros, and there I focused only on the dictionary, and there I found some free encyclopedia PDF documents, PDF files, and I was writing a parser. If you are interested, you can see the details about this in the comments, and there will be a reference for a GitHub account. So there I was doing full text search. I added full text search to the SQLite database, and I was writing the parser in Python. Um, I think this was the first time when I really paired with ChatGPT, and there I learned that it just makes my iterations faster. It is a bit outdated because the library or a number of libraries got updated. So it did produce some code that was outdated and I had to update it. But when it came to testing certain ideas, to asking him how this could be done or that could be done, he was generating me code snippets faster than I would do them on my own. And yeah, this greatly helped me or improved my iterations, I would say. Then on the day number 4, I spent 7 Pomodoros, and on this day I continued with database. This time it was less about preparing the data and more about connecting it to the application. So I struggled a little bit with full text search because of the versioning, and then I eventually made it work. I also updated the query, and I published my application to the store. And yeah, on this day I spent 7 Pomodoros. On the 5th day, I spent 10 Pomodoros, and I worked on UI. I improved the style, and I added loader. And finally, in the evening, I asked people to share their feedback. And this was the first moment when I would say I hit the wall, because those people who helped me testing, they said that it's not clear what the application is doing, and I had to rethink how it is and what should be done next. Then on the 6th day, I did minor refactoring. I thought about improving the recognition and also adding the Latin recognition and other things, but it felt a bit overwhelming, and I thought I would rather focus on other things. Unfortunately, at this moment, I had to make a longer break because of my previously planned trip, and then I made a long break. Finally, this week, this was day number 7, I allocated 6 Pomodoros. I changed the user experience, I added onboarding, and I also made the flow transparent so that people would know that at this moment this is happening. So text, this is the text that I managed to see application is saying to the user, and this is the these are the words that I managed to parse, and then it says, yeah, and these are the words I managed to find in the database. So now it's not the loader whom user waits forever, it is more like fine-grained, step-by-step operating of the application. And this is what I did on the last day. And at this moment, I consider that application is ready to be shipped, so that users would start playing around with this. But of course, there are lots of limitations, or maybe a few big limitations that I want to mention. So the biggest issue for me when I was working on this application was user experience. So when I gave it, I learned this harsh feedback that it's cool, but it's not clear what does it do. And I had to reconsider the flow. And I think this is the moment that that changed for me how I see the application, because it was not just recognize and show, because one by one or complete match of words didn't work. Most of the words were recognized not in full, So I had to show the user what exactly is happening, so user will be more comfortable with what is going on. Yeah, and as you saw already, that the flow is implemented like this right now. So it is more transparent. Now I'm thinking, what did this work bring me? What is the reward that I got? And I see that the work is done, and I came to the appreciation that this is a complex thing. This is still a complex domain, and you need to know Kotlin and Android development. It was also new for me, and the whole development or this adventure helped me to put 2 applications to Google Play Market. And of course, this is my first YouTube video that I'm recording, and these are the rewards that I reap from this adventure. Finally, looking back, I see that I proved that I can work with a new stack and deliver a product. I also see that stack is less important. More important are the principles. If you understand the principles, how things work, then you can move forward. I also see that some things always take time. For example, making UI look nice always requires time. Even now, I'm not super happy with how it looks. And then testing. Lots of testing is still required, and it always required more time. You cannot just buy it or ask other people to do this. You have to test it yourself. And my final thoughts would be what I learned when I come back, when I look back. I would say that starting is easy, but finishing or wrapping up is really hard. I also learned that ChatGPT is charming and it is changing the development. I found a perfect use case for it in writing tests. As you see, when I was writing the transliterator, it took the heavy burden and just generated a huge fixture and the test for me, which would take quite a while if I would write it myself. And it was also great at helping me understanding concepts with which I didn't work. For example, when I worked with Android development, I asked about certain things. I asked about the UI development, and I asked specific terms that were not so clear, and he would give me examples from different perspectives. And finally, of course, it was generating content. And after I saw how good it is at generating content, I understood that it is not by chance that people are going on strike in America because of this. It's just it does a terrific job when it comes to generating text that you can use. Yeah. At this moment, of course, I need to tell you about a few things about the limitations that I saw that still would require some time to work on. My friend complained that the size of the application is huge. Yes, this should be changed. Then the second thing, the recognition itself, it should be improved. Yes, but there are infinite opportunities to improve it. It just requires extra time. For me, the main thing that could be improved and should be improved is the dictionary, so it should be extended. If I manage to find, or if you know where to find it, just tell me, and I could easily add new words so that people would benefit from this. And the last thing is that only Latin text is recognized, and Cyrillic would require an extra effort. In my next video, I will prepare a new application. I already wrote it a few years ago, I think 5 or maybe even 6 years ago. It's an application, it's a service where you can tell that you don't have electricity. And during my last trip to Uzbekistan, I realized that it's still an issue, and I would like to bring more attention to this problem. And I would like to rebuild or improve the application, make it usable, and this time focus on usability so that really people are using the application, making it, or maybe spending some time on marketing so people would click it through. And yeah, I would say hit like and subscribe not to miss the next video. Thank you.